Okay, we're going to talk about Bill Alexander and building Winona.
If I were sitting here and you're talking about that house, Bill Alexander means nothing to me.
Oh, he was the contractor.
I don't have any remembrance of it.
Okay.
Where the house came from or anything.
Okay, well, you had it custom built. You and Dickie.
I can't believe it because neither one of us can wait. When we wanted to move, we would want to move tomorrow.
Well, and you went over every day. I remember I was living out in Saratoga then with Gisela, and you guys would go over every day.
From where?
From Glendale, and look at the progress that was made, and it was never enough. It took a year and a half at least, if not 2.5 years, to build that house. And you guys did the classical thing of changing your mind about things, and tweaking this little piece and that little piece. But you got the garden that you wanted, and the sunken fireplace that Dickie wanted, and the sauna that he wanted, and so forth. Beautiful kitchen, and with all inlaid cupboards and cabinetry and so forth. He did a brilliant job of the house. It was a great house, and that was in about, well, it was after I got back from the Army, so it was around, it was in process when I came back, which was 64, 65. So it was being built around that time, and you stayed there, well, for a long time. You put a funny anecdote in these memoirs, but we're looking at this autobiography that you guys did. Yeah. I don't know if it'll focus in on that. Yeah, there we go.
What do you want me to look at?
No, I want the camera to look at it. But in the autobiography, you talk about a vignette about how when you first got to the neighborhood and moved in to Winona, Dickie took a flyer around to all the neighbors, but he looked kind of rumpled on the weekend, and they just thought he was a door-to-door salesman selling, house siding or something, and they shooed him away. Do you remember any of that?
No.
But
I can't remember the house. I can't remember watching it being built.
Let's see how much we can remember and what things come back to you. I get the point that you don't remember it, but I sort of want to go over it anyway in case little pieces come back. You had good neighbors there. Do you remember any of the neighbors?
No.
They were your best of friends for years and years and years. The Blooms?
Oh, yeah. They were not next door. They were 2 or 3 doors down.
Right. You lived there 10 years. So from 65 to 75. And 75 is when you moved down to Carmel finally. But everybody used to visit. I mean, everybody was back in San Jose again then at that time. Patty was living there. I was living there. Gisela and I were together there. So it was a big family time, and you used to entertain a lot because you had this gorgeous house for doing Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas. You had Christmas at the house.
Right.
And that's why it was such a nice house. It was plenty of room for everybody.
I can't have no memory.
Okay, I got it. You got no memory of it at all.
It will probably come back. So.
You had that little shop in San Francisco, the Whirl. Give it a whirl.
Yeah, was that Dick's?
Yes. You used to go up to San Francisco. You and Dickie, at that point, since you were financially secure and successful, you just built your own house, and it was a gorgeous, upper strata Willow Glen home. You started traveling a lot, and one of the things you traveled to do was going up to San Francisco and spending weekends or even weeks up there. You had the Nob Hill apartment. You had a couple different apartments on Nob Hill that you took for a year at a time. Plus, there were other periods of time where you just went up and spent weekends and so forth. And one of the things was opening a business up there on Union Street.
Good heavens, I don't remember anything about that. That's a big deal.
Called the Whirl, and that way you used it to justify going to Europe. and Asia,
Right.
and shopping. And you talk about how you were the lucky woman to be able to.
Somebody else. It wasn't me. It was somebody else.
Well, yeah.
That I might have heard about.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me to remember that.
The when you travel that by having the world, when you went to Italy, for instance, in Rome, you write that you always bought 6 pair of the very best Italian shoes, and you had a closet full of shoes, of
Right.
gorgeous import shoes that you could use and theoretically sell at the Whirl. And Dickie, I remember, brought back all sorts of odds and ends, nooks and crannies. It was just a fun thing to do, to have this little shop
Right.
hidden away in a little alley on Union Street. And of course, then it gave you and Dickie both the status of having a business in San Francisco. You know, your own. It's fun to have a part of it like that, a part of San Francisco. Because you get to be a part of the town. Living in a place is definitely always better to really get to know it. And you guys learned San Francisco pretty well, I think, at that time. From 65 to 75, that era.
I think the reason that it went down to Carmel the first time, it was when he was on a long trip, and I went down and sort of cased it, I guess. Is it strictly boredom, wanted to do something different. I can't remember why in the world we would move to Carmel any other reason. But
well, it was a peaceful, pleasant environment, and I think you've done your 10 years in San Jose.
It was something new.
And he was trying to back away from industrial.
Right.
But this was sort of an added incentive to sever that tie a little bit more cleanly. I know these are pictures. I love these 2 pictures that you've got in here of you and Patty in the 70s miniskirts. You're both wearing thigh-high miniskirts. And you, of course, Patty was grown. I mean, Patty was, what would she have been at that time? But we're talking about, let's say, 75. So I was in my mid-30s, Pat. Well, and she was in young 30s, but you would have been in your mid-50s, and wearing a miniskirt. It just seems cute. It's very cute. Look back at that.
The reason that it wasn't outstanding was that if I was wearing a miniskirt, everybody was wearing a miniskirt.
That's true.
I did what everybody else did.
You were fashionable. You
Yes.
stuck with the fashions.
Right.
And you guys still stuck with bridge. You must have brought bridge to the card game of bridge to Winona, because there were a number of people in the area that you still played bridge with.
Oh, yeah.
And you talk in here about that women, when they're on their own, play serious bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Cutthroat bridge. Did they play for money or just
No, it was the honor of the thing.
of winning? Yeah. And you used to play bridge on the cruises you take. You know, there was a cruise to Mexico and a cruise here and a cruise there, and you won. You and Dickie were pretty good bridge players by that time, and you guys won the trophy on the trip to
Right.
Mexico. Do you remember winning a trophy?
Not really.
Yeah. And you write up another little vignette in here about the your table mates. On cruises, you get a set table that you're part of, and you get to know the people who were across from it. And you were with this strange couple where he was short and black and she was tall and blonde, and they dressed in costume, almost the way you describe it, every night. So it was something different every day that you were on this cruise. Must have been like a 10-day cruise, and you described that she had told you, confided in you, that it'd taken her weeks to actually work with a clothing designer or a seamstress, a dressmaker, to make the clothes for them, because it was they were both dressed alike for everything. If they were going to be Swiss, Austrian yodelers, they both came in lederhosen and, you know, and that kind of thing. Or if they were both scuba diving that day, they would both be in swimming wear and that kind of, you know, they dressed alike each day. Do you remember them at all?
No.
You put in here that you'll never forget them because they were, you know, they were the...
It was a married couple you're talking
Yes, it was a couple, and they were your table mates of four. I mean, there was a table for four, and so they came and you saw them at dinner every night for a week or more. And then there were the Murphys. Your next door neighbors were the Murphys, who had 8 little kids.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, you must have watched them all getting born, and he was an obstetrician.
Yes. That was a big family joke, was he was...
Shoemaker's kids,
Yes.
I think.
So they had, when we first knew them, they probably had 5 or 6 kids, and they had one couple in high school, I'm sure.
Uh-huh.
And then they kept having babies, and I think while we were neighbors, they had two more, you know, little babies. I can't imagine why they didn't stop. I'm sure they...
Well, they stopped at 8. You write up in here that their lifelong goal from the day they got married, they wanted 8 kids, and they got them.
They got...
And that's when they stopped. And then they stopped. They threw a big party to celebrate their goal. They were through then.
I really don't remember anything about them except the big
kids.
family.
Yeah.
And because it was a big family, I saw the kids that were in the 12 to 14 age.
Yeah.
And they were looking for somebody to talk to and all that. And they were old enough to talk our language. And
I remember visiting that I would see them as well, and things like, I think they had a front lawn, they had a big nice front lawn, Easter egg hunt, and they were always out for Christmas and maybe throwing a football around or something like that, and
right.
And I would have gone out there. I was like,
yeah, they were a great family.
Yeah, and they stayed at home and
they had to.
Now another trip or cruise, I guess I don't know if you flew or took a boat with Jackie Thorne and her 2 girls. You used to travel with other people like that.
I remember that one.
You went down to Mexico City. The blondes were, of course, gorgeous blondes, and they drew boys like
right.
flies. But you took Gail around that same time to Paris. Gail Mindling.
Yeah. I forgot that.
Yeah. So you traveled as the sort of tour guide, I guess, were you?
Well, just to make it each trip something different, you know. If you just keep going back to Paris for 2 weeks, it's like you might as well just go back to
Waterloo?
Waterloo.
No, I don't think so. Paris is a little more interesting than Waterloo, but
no, but not much. Not if you've been around once or twice.
That's true. So this was good fun for you then, but it was adventurous to go off to Mexico City or to Paris with somebody else's child in tow, like Jackie
right.
Thorne's kids or Gail. And
yeah, Gail was in her teens, I think.
Yeah.
And thrilled to death that her parents let her do this. And it was probably a 2-week trip, and we did go across the ocean. I think I don't know whether we flew or.
Oh, you would have flown. You did fly with Gail. Now with the Thornes going to Mexico, you might have gone on a cruise ship, but I think you probably flew because you did go all the way to Mexico City, and that's actually 1,000 miles away from the ocean. So. And that was fun. It was adventuresome with Jackie Thorne because she was she was going through her divorce with John at that time. Because you and John and Jackie used to travel as adults. John and Jackie liked to go to Europe as well, and I know you met up with them in Paris a couple times. And,
Yeah.
Did you ever keep up with them at all? Because they...
Dick didn't like to have anybody like that.
Yeah.
And Dick was competitive, and when he...
So was John Thorne, yeah.
Well, yeah. And when he got home from the trip, when he wanted to talk about it, he didn't want anybody
One-upping him.
one-upping him at all. And we were all one big group. So when we met them over there, but we never went anywhere together. It's hard because people all want different types of things, you know.
Yeah.
Eating and rooms and spending money and all that. It's amazing to me, isn't it, to think that how much money we just threw around. We were really well off then.
Yes.
From the shop.
Yes, and
Rod Mule were too.
Well, but you had fun with it. I mean, you traveled and saw the world, and
yeah, that's right.
And shared it with other people like John or Jackie and her girls, or Gail and so forth. So you were, and then the foreign exchange students, and
right.
Yeah, I mean you touched a lot of lives during that
right.
period. I'm sure you don't remember having your purse stolen in Mexico City, but you write up about it.
Oh yes.
Oh, you do?
Now that you bring it up, I can remember exactly what happened. I was on a streetcar with this purse on a strap over my arm.
Yeah.
And there was no seats. I had to hang on to the bar.
Right.
And when I got off, my purse wasn't there. Somebody had just, we knew who it was because I yelled, and the driver pointed down the street, and there was this man running like mad.
Yeah.
And I never got anything. All I lost, I had my passport, you know, all that stuff that if you need when you are in a foreign country.
Well, yeah,
it was Mexico.
Right, it's Mexico City. Yeah, it's and they tell you about that kind of stuff, warn you, you know, that there's pickpockets all over the place. So yeah, that couple I mentioned earlier, where he was short. You describe him as looked sort of like Sammy Davis Jr. and Crystal, his wife, was big and blonde. But you say in here you've never forgotten them. That you know you heard their stories every night at dinner and why they did all this kind of stuff. She took a couple of steamer trunks full of wardrobe changes, 3 changes a day for 10 days, 30 different outfits.
See, that's what in those days people. That was the fun they got out of a boat trip, was having
dressing for dinner and drinks
and taking part in the games on the deck and all that stuff, which we didn't do.
Dutch outfits, Japanese outfits, gold lame outfits, gay 90s outfits, Swiss yodeler outfits. One never knew until they popped in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner what the theme would be.
Well, for those people, I mean, we didn't know them from, you know, they put utter strangers, but we got acquainted. But for those people, that was why you went on a trip.
Yeah.
To do that. Women, anyway.
Chances to dress up, yes.
Yeah. But it gave women a chance to have different outfits and have a reason to wear them.
Yes, women love a chance to get dressed up to the nines, as they say. Well, one of your other big trips, of course, was going on the QE2 and going on the Concorde, the airplane, supersonic airplane, which no longer flies, you know.
That is something that worked behind the scenes. I wanted to be sure that we did it because it was, in those days, this was a big thing. We took the first trip on one of those that you named, and across the sea.
Yeah.
And I just pushed Dickie to get on that ship, because then we could later say we had taken the first trip that there was.
That was the Concorde, and it went
Yeah.
at Mach 2 or Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound, and it's been outlawed now for 20 years. I mean, they don't fly anymore. They've been completely retired. So, and it's unclear if we'll ever again have things that go that fast, unless they solve the problem of the noise, because it made such huge, horrible noise when it broke the sound barrier. I mean, it just scared people. So, yes, you did something that only a handful of people have ever done.
Right.
And
of course, it doesn't mean a thing, but in those days it did.
I think it still does, because it's not going. You can't.
I probably, in a certain group of people, most anybody we ever see or meet doesn't know anything about anything like that. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
Well, there's that. I know at the time you were very impressed with the fact that you had flown, shortly after World War I in one of those biplane Barnstormer type planes at, maybe 80 miles an hour, which was fast then, going over cornfields. But, just at the beginning of aviation, and here you were flying at 2 or 3 times the speed of sound at the fastest airplane in the world.
Over the ocean.
Over the ocean, yeah. So it was, because I think it took the trip to London down to just a few hours. 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that.
To New York.
New York to...
Yeah.
Well, I guess you took the Concorde from San Francisco to New York?
No.
Or New York to Paris?
We may have, but that's not the one I'm thinking of. We got on in Paris.
Ah, and flew it back.
And flew back.
Okay, yeah, Paris, New
in
York.
one fell swoop.
Right.
Whereas it used to, before that, you might have to go to Spain and then up.
Right, yeah. Transfer of it. Yes. Oh, no, it was great. It was back when there was service. I don't know what you've heard lately about airline travel, but it's pretty poor these days. You're lucky if you get a piece of bread, and a glass of water. Well, you have to pay. You have to pay for the water and pay for the bread, and you pay for a pillow or a blanket or
coffee's $5.
Yes.
They don't want the business, so they make it so expensive that nobody orders it.
Yeah.
A cup of coffee is never worth $5.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of horror stories about flying these days. So you flew at the right time, at the pinnacle of
it was the beginning of some of those big airlines.
Yeah. The pinnacle of flying. Yes, I remember those big 747s with the top thing in them. They don't do that anymore. The bubble on top, which was first class, and
right.
It was just magnificent to be able to fly that way.
We had one trip up in the
bubble.
In the bubble.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we've hit 20 minutes again, and we're actually a little bit over. So I'm going to leave Winona and. Get back later on.